Imagine this, a dimly lit comedy club, the audience buzzing with anticipation. Suddenly the spotlight reveals not a slim jokester, but a 525-pound former wrestling superstar on stage. This was King Kong Bundy's unexpected foray into stand-up comedy. As Bundy gripped the microphone, he launched into his first joke. The crowd's reaction was a mix of nervous laughter and stunned silence. This documentary explores Bundy's surprising career shift, from his nerve-wracking first gig to his eventual Hollywood roles. We'll uncover how this wrestling legend navigated an industry that often pigeonholes performers, reinventing himself along the way. In 1985, King Kong Bundy was at the pinnacle of his wrestling career. Standing 6'4" and weighing 525 pounds, he was the embodiment of wrestling villainy. Fans trembled at his signature move, the avalanche splash, and his demand for a 5 count instead of the standard 3. Bundy had it all: fame, fortune, and a fearsome reputation that preceded him wherever he went. But beneath the intimidating exterior of this wrestling colossus, something was stirring. A subtle discontent, barely perceptible at first, began to grow. Bundy, known to friends as Chris Pallies, started to feel the constraints of his wrestling persona. The cheers and boos of the crowd, once exhilarating, now felt oddly hollow. It was during this time of unspoken restlessness that fate intervened. At a post-match event in Los Angeles, Bundy encountered Sarah Levinson, a sharp-eyed Hollywood agent with a knack for spotting hidden talent. As Bundy signed autographs, his larger-than-life presence filling the room, Levinson observed something others missed: a quick wit and a disarming charm that seemed at odds with his imposing figure. Levinson approached Bundy after the event, her proposition catching him off guard. "Have you ever considered comedy?" she asked. The question hung in the air, seeming almost absurd given Bundy's fearsome reputation. But Levinson saw potential where others saw only muscle and might. Initially, Bundy brushed off the suggestion. Comedy? Him? It seemed like a punchline in itself. But Levinson's words lingered, echoing in his mind long after their encounter. They resonated with a part of Bundy that had long been overshadowed by his wrestling persona, a part that craved expression beyond the confines of the ring. The wrestling industry had a history of pigeonholing performers, especially those of Bundy's stature. Large, physically imposing wrestlers were expected to play one note: the monster heel, the unbeatable force, the human wrecking ball. It was a role Bundy had played to perfection. But as the years wore on, he began to feel the weight of these expectations pressing down on him more heavily than any opponent ever had. Bundy started to notice the subtle ways his character limited him. In interviews, he was expected to growl and threaten. At fan events, children would cower behind their parents. Even his fellow wrestlers sometimes seemed unsure how to interact with him outside the ring. After weeks of internal debate, Bundy made a decision that would alter the course of his career. He picked up the phone and called Levinson. "I want to give it a shot," he said, his voice a mix of determination and apprehension. "Where do we start?" With those words, King Kong Bundy, the wrestling titan, took his first tentative steps into the world of comedy. It was a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about himself and his capabilities. The spotlight flickered to life, illuminating the cramped stage of the Comedy Store. Dark wood paneling and red velvet curtains framed the intimate space, a far cry from the vast arenas King Kong Bundy was accustomed to. The 525-pound wrestling star stood in the wings, his massive frame dwarfing the slender microphone stand. It was 1987, and the wrestling world's most feared villain was about to face his toughest opponent yet, a room full of people expecting to laugh. Bundy's journey from the squared circle to the comedy stage wasn't easy. He grappled with challenges far different from those in the ring, starting with finding material that didn't rely on his size or wrestling persona. "I didn't want to be a one-trick pony," Bundy later recalled. "I wanted to prove I had something more to offer." Seeking guidance, Bundy found an unlikely ally in Rodney Dangerfield. Their chance meeting at a charity event in Atlantic City became a turning point. Dangerfield advised, "Kid, in this business, you gotta learn to punch up, not down. Use that size of yours to make yourself the underdog." Armed with this insight, Bundy crafted a set that played against type. He worked tirelessly, often staying up late after wrestling shows, jotting down ideas and refining his timing. The process was grueling, but Bundy approached it with the same dedication he'd given to perfecting his avalanche splash in the ring. As news of Bundy's comedy aspirations spread, skepticism followed. Comedy club owners were hesitant to book him, fearing he'd be a novelty act at best. Fellow comedians eyed him warily, unsure if this wrestling behemoth was serious about the craft. Bundy started small, performing at open mic nights and dingy bars where the stage could barely contain him. These gigs taught him valuable lessons about timing, crowd work, and the art of the punchline. He learned to be still, letting his words do the work instead of his body. As his first major gig at the Comedy Store approached, Bundy's nerves peaked. The night before, he paced his hotel room, running through his set repeatedly. "I was more nervous than I'd ever been before a wrestling match," he later admitted. When the moment arrived, Bundy took a deep breath and stepped into the spotlight. The audience fell silent, a mix of curiosity and skepticism palpable in the air. With perfect timing, Bundy opened with a line that set the tone for his entire set. "I know what you're all thinking. Great, another wrestler trying to be funny. Well, let me tell you, I've taken more hits to the head than all of you combined, so at least you know I'm qualified." The room erupted in laughter, and King Kong Bundy the comedian was born. Over the next hour, he won over the crowd with self-deprecating humor, clever observations about life on the road, and even a few well-placed wrestling references. As the applause died down, Bundy knew he had crossed a threshold, proving there was more to him than just his imposing physical presence. King Kong Bundy's successful comedy debut at the Comedy Store marked a turning point, but it was just the beginning of his journey into the broader entertainment world. Hollywood soon took notice of this wrestling giant with a surprising knack for comedy. However, the path from the ring to the silver screen wasn't without its obstacles. In 1988, Bundy found himself in an unfamiliar arena, the casting room. Gone were the roaring crowds and the certainty of his wrestling persona. Instead, he faced skeptical casting directors and narrow-minded producers who struggled to see beyond his imposing physique. They'd take one look at me and say, "We've got the perfect role for you. Angry Bouncer number 3, Bundy recalled in a 1995 interview with Entertainment Weekly. "It was frustrating. I wanted to show them I could do more than just scowl and flex." This typecasting dilemma wasn't unique to Bundy. Many wrestlers attempting to transition into acting faced similar hurdles. The entertainment industry had long pigeonholed performers with distinct physical attributes, and a 525-pound former wrestling villain was no exception. Bundy, however, was determined to break the mold. He adopted a strategic approach, seeking out roles that would showcase his range beyond physical intimidation. This meant turning down lucrative offers for typecast parts in favor of smaller, more nuanced roles that allowed him to flex his comedic muscles. One unexpected avenue that opened up for Bundy was voice acting. In 1990, he landed a role in the animated series Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, voicing a character named Tamacho. This opportunity allowed Bundy to showcase his vocal talents without the preconceptions tied to his physical appearance. Bundy's breakthrough came in 19 when he landed a guest role on the hit sitcom Married with Children. He played Uncle Irwin, a mild-mannered, socially awkward relative of the Bundy family. The character was a far cry from the intimidating personas he had portrayed in wrestling and in his early acting gigs. Bundy's performance was a revelation. He brought a gentle vulnerability to Uncle Irwin that caught viewers off guard. His ability to elicit both laughs and sympathy demonstrated a range that many had doubted he possessed. The episode aired to positive reviews, with several critics singling out Bundy's performance. The Los Angeles Times wrote, "In a surprising turn, former wrestler King Kong Bundy delivers a nuanced and genuinely funny performance, proving that there's more to this giant than meets the eye." This role marked a turning point in Bundy's acting career. It opened doors to a variety of characters that weren't solely based on his physical attributes. Producers and casting directors began to see him in a new light, recognizing his potential for both comedy and drama. Bundy's journey from the wrestling ring to Hollywood sets was more than just a career transition. It was a personal transformation that challenged not only the industry's perceptions, but also his own self-image. Each role, each audition, pushed him to explore new facets of his personality and talents. The spotlight glared harshly on Bundy as he stood frozen on the comedy club stage. His mind raced, searching for his next line, but found only a blank void. The audience's murmurs grew louder, their restlessness palpable. For a moment, the once indomitable King Kong Bundy felt utterly powerless. This incident marked a turning point. Bundy's confident exterior belied a growing storm of self-doubt. "Am I really cut out for this?" he'd ask himself before auditions. "What if they realize I'm just a washed-up wrestler?" These thoughts plagued him, eroding the self-assurance that had once been his hallmark. Recognizing the need for help, Bundy sought out a therapist specializing in athlete career transitions. Together, they explored the roots of his insecurities. Through cognitive behavioral techniques, Bundy learned to challenge his negative self-talk. Mindfulness exercises helped him stay present during performances, rather than spiraling into anxiety. The pressure to succeed in his new career was immense. Bundy felt the weight of expectations from fans, industry insiders, and fellow wrestlers who saw him as a trailblazer. His support system proved crucial during this period. His longtime manager became his staunchest advocate, while fellow comedians offered encouragement and advice. A breakthrough came when Bundy landed a role in an independent film. He played a former athlete struggling with addiction and the loss of his identity. During a pivotal scene, Bundy initially struggled to access the required emotion. Frustrated and ready to quit, he had an epiphany. He realized that his own doubts and insecurities were the key to understanding his character's pain. "In that moment, I stopped fighting against my fears," Bundy recounted. "I let them in, and suddenly everything clicked." The resulting performance was raw and powerful. Critics hailed it as transformative, with one reviewer noting, "Bundy lays bare his soul with breathtaking courage." This experience marked a profound shift in Bundy's approach. He began to see his journey of self-discovery as his greatest strength. The vulnerability he'd once feared became his most powerful tool, allowing him to connect with audiences in new ways. As news of Bundy's acclaimed performance spread, it sparked a broader conversation about wrestlers in dramatic roles. Casting directors who had once dismissed Bundy now sought him out for complex, nuanced characters. His success opened doors for other wrestlers looking to transition into acting, proving that the skills honed in the ring could translate powerfully to the screen. King Kong Bundy's journey from wrestling villain to versatile entertainer left an indelible mark on both industries, challenging stereotypes about wrestlers' career potential. His success inspired others like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to explore talents beyond the ring. The wrestling world and Hollywood embraced Bundy's transition, shifting perceptions and encouraging casting directors to look beyond physical stereotypes. His legacy proves that anyone can redefine themselves with determination. Bundy reflected, "I never imagined I'd go from the ring to comedy clubs, but it's been an incredible ride." His story stands as a testament to embracing change and pursuing passions. How might Bundy's journey inspire your own reinvention?